So, how do you stop worrying? How do you break the cycle? Especially if you've been worrying all your life. Over the last 3 episodes, well, solo episodes, we've talked about how worry can be addictive, how it affects your body, the physical symptoms of worry, and how it can affect your confidence. Today we're going to look at how we can start to break out of that cycle of worry. And we're going to continue on this theme over the next 2 weeks as well. If you're new here, hello, I'm Niamh. I'm a women's confidence coach. I help women to overcome their fear, to stop people pleasing. I use Reiki, meditation and journaling as part of my coaching to give women the tools they need to stop the anxiety, the stress, the worry, and where necessary to stop the people-pleasing behaviour that they indulge in. And today we're here to talk about worry and how we can break free of worry. Now, I'm not saying that you're never going to worry again in your life. Worry is a natural, normal part of human nature. We all worry to some extent. When worry becomes a problem is when it rules our life. When we start to feel anxious, when we start to get those physical sensations, when the worry and the anxiety we feel around the thoughts in our head start to eat away at our confidence, when we feel that we can't do anything or make any decisions, that we have to kind of weigh the pros and cons of everything, when even the tiniest little decision can feel like a huge weight, that's when you've got a problem. If you want to know how this has become an addictive and a pattern in your life, go back to episode 4 of season 2 and listen to that one. But when I first noticed this, I was always a worrier. It's how I was brought up. My mother worried. Everybody around me worried. Worrying was just, it was spoken about. It was part of life. What I didn't realize was that worrying was not something that was supposed to take up all day, every day, which for me it was. And there were 2 things that hit me. One was when I started having constant panic attacks. And then I would be panicking about having a panic attack. And it got to a point where I was almost scared to leave the house. In fact, I didn't leave the house really unless I had to take the children somewhere, or I had an appointment, or I had to go to work. Otherwise, I just stayed at home because I was kind of scared I was going to have a panic attack, and because I was worrying about that. Yeah, we know the loop. It just makes everything worse. And the other real trigger point or touch point for me was when I was standing in the supermarket one day and I was looking for a sandwich for lunch and I couldn't choose. I literally was overwhelmed by the choice. I could not decide what I wanted. There were too many choices, and I burst into tears standing in an aisle in the supermarket looking at the sandwiches because I couldn't choose. I no longer knew what I wanted. And that was because all the worry and all the anxiety, and I also had a diagnosis of depression at that point as well. It had all eaten away at my confidence, so I had no trust in myself. I couldn't even look at a, whatever you call it, a fridge, a thing of sandwiches, and say, ooh, I fancy that one. It was just like too much. There's too many. Can I just have one? I didn't know. And I ended up walking out and not having lunch that day because it was literally just too much. And then, of course, that created more worry for me. The self-critic jumped in and started telling me, that I was useless, I was rubbish, how can you not even choose a sandwich, how can you not even know what you want to eat? I don't know if you have that, but that was, that's the way my self-critic used to talk to me all the time. So how did I break out of that cycle? I'm going to be honest with you, and I've said this before and I will keep saying it. Yes, I worry sometimes. Of course I do. As I said at the beginning of this podcast, it's human nature. We all worry from time to time. But it's when we let it get out of control that is the problem. And I spoke about in the first episode of this series, in episode 4 of season 2, about how worry is just an illusion of our brain creates to help us, not to help us, it's pretending it's in control. When we worry, our brain thinks it's coming up with solutions or ideas. But when we can release that worry and get out of our subconscious way, then our true creative self comes through and we find our solutions that way. So, how do you break out of this cycle of worry? The first thing is just to notice that you're doing it and to name it. And it might take a while and you won't notice every time. But when you first, when you notice, next time you notice that you're going into that worry mode, into that pattern, just say, oh, I'm worrying. And just let that go. Just notice. You don't need to do anything about it right now. Notice that you're worrying. Sometimes just the noticing can stop the worry. The next step after noticing, so you notice you're worrying, is to actually, so you name it, oh, I'm worrying. What am I worrying about? So actually name the fear, the anxiety, whatever it is you're worrying about. So, for instance, at the moment, my boiler needs servicing, and I keep putting it off. Because here's the thought patterns. Right. I work part-time at a yoga studio. I have clients. I have other calls that I'm committed to attend. I do a little bit of maths tutoring. So I've got all these little slots in my days to fit in. And so I need to arrange for the boiler service man to come at a time when I'm free. So my brain's going, well, if I look at my calendar, I don't have a free whole morning or whole afternoon this week or next week. So how am I supposed to finance it? Well, I could book it in for 3 weeks, but what if I need my heating and it doesn't work? No, we don't know that. And then my next thing goes, well, money. Do we have enough money in the bank account? Yes, tick that one. We know, because I've been putting money aside. I know my boiler needs servicing, so I put money aside for that. But I could let myself carry on in this loop for weeks longer, and then winter could come and I go to switch my heating on and my boiler doesn't work. But then what do I do? So when I notice that I've got into that pattern of creating stories about why I can't book a boiler service right now, I need to stop myself. I'm worrying. What am I worrying about? I'm worrying that I don't have the time for the repairman or the serviceman to come to service my boiler. So there are the first 2 steps. Noticing, so naming that you're worrying. I notice that I'm worrying, or I'm worrying. What am I worrying about? I'm worrying about booking my boiler service. Okay, so we've got that far. And then sometimes maybe we can just let that worry go. Or we can think, is there an action I can take right now? Yes, there's an action I can take right now, in this moment in time. I can look at my diary. I can choose 2 or 3 days that are going to suit me to have the serviceman come. I can then ring the boiler service company and I can say, I would like my boiler serviced. These are the dates I have available. Can you match any of them? Problem solved. Action taken. Service booked in. It's in the diary. No need to worry. Now, I know not everything is that clear cut, but I'm just kind of giving you an idea here. That the first step is always to notice that you're worrying. But the important thing here is not letting your inner critic pipe up with, oh, look at you, you're worrying again, you're always worrying, why are you always worrying? There's nothing to worry about. You don't do that, because that's what mine used to do, and that just made everything worse. So we need to treat ourselves here with compassion. Oh, I'm worrying again. Okay. Give yourself a hug. Just put your hand on your chest with some gentle pressure. Hold it there for 30 or 60 seconds. It allows your system to regulate. Do some deep breathing. Step outside, look at a tree or listen to the birds. Just take a break from your brain. So you've noticed that you're worrying. You give your brain the break. Then you identify the worry. Then you decide if you can take action or not. If you can't take action immediately, can you just let that worry go? Do we need to worry about this right now? Maybe you put it on a list somewhere of something to do in the future. And then actively let it go. Sometimes we actually have to choose to actively let it go. So you say, I'm not going to worry about that right now. I can't do anything about this right now. I'm letting this go. And that can be the really hard part. But the more you practice it, just let it go. Move on. Do something else. Take that brain break. Actually physically do something else. Wash the dishes, sweep the floor. Anything that gets you away from that. And you'll find the more you do this, the more you can break out of that cycle. You'll find those worry periods become shorter. Now, one of the things that really did help me during my phase of excessive worrying, panic attacks, low mood, was to actually set aside worry time every day. When I first started doing that, I would set aside 15 minutes. So I would have lunch, and for 15 minutes after lunch was worry time. And I could allow my brain to run away with all the thoughts, all the worries. And then when the alarm went off, I would stop. Now that might be helpful for you, it might not be helpful. It's just one of the things that helped me, because I knew that I had scheduled worry time. Because worry was so much a part of my life and so much a part of who I thought I was, that the whole idea of not worrying was kind of alien. So that worked for a while, and it got to a point where actually it got to worry time, and I thought, oh, actually I don't need to worry. I don't have anything. I might read a book instead. So I eased my way gently as is. And I'm not saying this happened overnight. It didn't even happen a week or a fortnight. This probably took me months and months and possibly even years of practice to get to the point where I noticed the worry starting. I can identify the worry. I can take action, or I can let it go. And it is hard. I'm not going to say it's not hard, especially if you're somebody who's worried your entire life. If you were like me, you were brought up with worrying being a natural state. Yes, it's hard. So every time you notice that you're worrying and you name it, praise yourself. Give yourself kindness and compassion. Say, oh, look, I was worrying. I noticed. Oh, I'm doing so well. When you notice the worry and you can stop the worry and you can take action, make a note of it. Acknowledge that you've done it. Because when we acknowledge the things we've done, when we get that praise, because our little human minds and brains, they work on rewards. We like rewards. We like to be told we're doing good. And we can do that for ourselves. So when we can notice those changes in ourselves, when we can see that things are moving forward and that they're changing, and we can praise ourselves for that, and we can write a note in our journal that today I managed to stop the worry. Today I'm really grateful to myself for taking action on booking my boiler service so I don't have to worry about it anymore. When we start to take those little steps and we start to praise ourselves for it, we want that dopamine hit from the praise. I mean, after all, that's what we function on, isn't it? Usually when we're in that cycle of worry, well, for me anyway, I would grab chocolate or biscuits or cake or something sweet to kind of try and squash the feelings down. But if you try self-praise or a little bit of gratitude, maybe sometimes I could practice gratitude. I could be very, very grateful for the fact that I actually have a boiler that requires service. It's little flips in our thinking that can really help us alleviate some of that worry, alleviate the constant thinking about it. We don't need to engage in every single thought that comes into our brain. So when we can notice that thought, we either take action on it or we can let it go. And that's the practice that helps you break the cycle of worrying. If you need help with this, please do message me. I'm happy to chat to you via Messenger, or we can set up a free 20-minute chat to talk to you about how you can help yourself get out of this pattern if it's one you're stuck in. Anyway, thank you very much for listening. Do subscribe so you get the rest of this series, and I will see you on the next one.